Winter. It can be a mean son of a bitch, but sometimes you gotta find a way to make it fun. Good food, hot tents. That's how I do it.
Hot tents. They're not that new. Have you ever heard of a teepee? At any rate, in the last few years, hot tenting and winter camping have kind of surged in popularity. And I joined the bandwagon, and as a hammock camper, I was super excited to see hammock hot tents becoming a kind of a hot thing on the market. So last winter, I purchased a hammock hot tent from OneTigris. It's called the Rocdomus. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to set it up. I'm going to give you a tour of the inside, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons and design of the Rocdomus hot tent, and some of the cons, perhaps, of what the company has to offer. But without further ado, let's get started setting up the Rocdomus hot tent.
Now there is more than one way to skin this cat, but I like to use a second set of hammock straps to hang the ridgeline of the tent from. I simply use a set of carabiners and hang it from the hammock straps much like you would a hammock, and then tighten each end until the ridgeline is taut. A trick I learned from Justin at It's Good in the Woods is to use these long deck screws and a drill, especially in ice and snow. Shock cord is used on each guy line to help it be flexible in weather. The official instructions tell you to stake down each door first, but I find that staking down each corner much like you would a tarp has worked best for me. Next, I stake down all of the upper guy lines, providing tons of space for activities. If you choose to use every guy line on the tent, there are 10 on each side and 2 on each end, requiring 22 total stakes. Here's a closer look at the side of the tent. On each side, there are 5 tie-out points on the floor of the tent, followed by 5 guy-out lines in the middle of the tent. As you can see, on either side, the tent tapers inward. Next, let's hang the hammock. Like any hammock, you'll hang your hammock straps from either tree, and then on either end of the tent, there is a double zipper that provides a slot for you to stick the hammock strap into. Ooh, that's sexy. Now let's head inside. Ooh-wee, that's spacious. Next, you're going to hang your hammock just like you would any other day. Attach the straps, tighten it up to your liking, and off you go. My Superior Gear hammock is 11 feet long, and it requires me to hang it as close to the tent wall on either end as possible, which works out perfectly.
Okay, so it's all set up. So I should note real quickly that this can be turned into a full awning tent as well. In other words, on the flip side behind me, you can pitch that up kind of like in a porch mode with some poles that come from OneTigris you can purchase separately. Note though, they are sold in a pair, and when I ordered the 8-foot tall poles, I received one pole and noted to them that it was sold as a pair, and they basically told me that it was a typo in their advertising, and that has yet to be changed. So if you're going to order the OneTigris tent poles to make this a freestanding tent or for the awning, make sure that you order 2 of them. In other words, according to them, 2 pairs. So that was something disappointing. They did not send me a second pole. Instead, they refunded my money and basically told me to shove the one pole I have up my ass. So that being said, negatively about the company of OneTigris, I'm not a fan of their customer service that I have received. That's not to say that they aren't treating other people very well, and that it wasn't just an isolated incident. So let's talk more about the design of the tent itself. One of the things that I question, and maybe I don't know why they did it, and I haven't figured out why, but on either end of the tent, on the final guy lines, the tent actually tapers in. I don't know if you can see that very well on film, but I'll try to make sure and highlight it in some way. And on that tapered end is where they've chosen to put the stove jack. Now I'm sure there's some strategy behind that, maybe for safety to keep it a little further away from your hammock. But my question would be, is if they positioned it right here, It would not only be right next to me where I could feed the fire while I'm lying in my hammock, but it would also disperse the heat towards the other end of the tent. Because with my small stove, it has a hard time heating this entire big space. So another recommendation, make sure you get a sizable stove if you plan on using this in really Arctic temperatures. So other than those two cons, I don't really have a lot of bad things to say. I think this tent is extremely well designed. I like the fact that you can open up both doors. They have full zippers on the ends. If you're out on a nice afternoon before it gets cold at night, you can literally open the whole thing up to ventilate it. There are vents on either end too, just for when the doors are closed. And as you can see, I showed earlier, there's a separate double zipper for your hammock straps to go through, so you can protect that from the wind. On the opposite side of the doors, there's also flaps with Velcro for extra moisture protection, wind protection, etc. There are several guy out points on this. There are 10 on either side and then 2 on the bottoms of the doors, which is how you start to set the tent up. But I usually remove those under the doors because it makes it easier for me to get in and out of the tent itself, and I don't see a lot of flapping. But this entire tent is designed really well. It's designed so you can pretty much stand up in it. I have it pitched a little lower than normal right now, so my head touches the top, but I could pitch this even higher, which would only make me sacrifice maybe a little bit of space and width. But overall, this tent is awesome. I can use this without a hammock, put 2 cots in here comfortably and a stove, maybe even 3. And with a hammock, it's absolutely luxury. So I love it. Before we go today, let's talk a little bit about what this tent is capable of with a stove in it. Now I'm sorry, it's like 70 degrees today, unseasonably warm, and I'm already sweating, so I'm not going to set up the stove. But I have the Pomali Traveler. You can look at my playlist, and I have a review or lots of videos featuring that stove. It is a very small titanium stove, and I will tell you that I've been down to like 10 below zero in this tent, and with that stove fully roaring, I can fluctuate about 50 degrees. So when it was 10 below zero, I only got it up to about 40. Now on the flip side, on a mild day or a night in the 30s or 20s, I can get this to a very comfortable temperature when it's fully roaring. Again, that's with the Pomali Traveler stove, so it's much smaller. If you got a bigger stove in here, I have no doubt you could fluctuate that temperature range from 50 to probably 70 degrees. It's amazing what these things can do. Now remember, when you're hot tenting, it does require a lot of work. You're constantly feeding those small stoves, but that's kind of the ritualistic fun of wintertime camping for me. I don't know how you feel about it, but I really enjoy just kind of staying cozy, making sure I'm feeding the fire. It's an activity. It's something to do. I really, really like how everything is set up in here, and I've enjoyed my time in it so far. So as we close today, I just want to encourage everybody to be open-minded to wintertime camping. I know that the vast majority of the population thinks those of us that do this are insane. But I got to tell you, when you're out in the woods in a beautiful scenic setting on a cold winter night and you're sitting in your hot tent and you're warmer than hell, it's a pretty darn good feeling. So I encourage y'all to go check it out. If you have any questions about this tent, feel free to drop them below or email me. I have that on my community tab, and we'll talk more. But hot tenting season is here, and I'm excited to do it. So without further ado, I'm going to lay down and relax. Be yourself. Be happy. We'll see you real soon, everybody.
All the troubles that he knew.